Do you ever engage with a piece of media that just completely shakes you to your core when it's done? Well, The Beginner's Guide was one of those pieces for me. The ending is just, it's just incredible. I hope that I can do it justice with this video. Okay? Well, let's get started. If we're going to analyze this, then we need to lay down some ground rules. The community around analyzing this game argues a lot about Davey and Coda and what's real and not real. This video is not meant to be commentary on any of that. Rather, it is specifically meant to entertain, expose the themes, and eventually find the message that this story is attempting to tell. Because of this, we are going to lay down some ground rules. Number 1. Davey Wreden and Coda are fictional characters that may share a name with a real person. Number 2. Since they are characters, only evidence inside the game will be considered. Alright, we cool? Cool. Let's keep going. This starting section serves as an introduction in a couple ways. First, it introduces our guide throughout this collection, Davey Wreden. He'll be here throughout this entire collection as a narrator and first-hand account of events that Coda and him shared. Second, he connects himself to the actual creator of all the games in this collection, Coda. Davey describes him by saying,
"And I think he really understood this image of himself as a recluse."
This first game Davey shows us is less of a game and rather more of a testing grounds level from Counter-Strike. Made in 2008, before Davey met him, it was the first game Coda made. In my opinion, there's not much to glean from here, so I'm just going to skip forward to the second game made by Coda is this take on a generic shooter. And after exploring for a little while, you make it to a room with a maze.
Apparently this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
And so, Davey teleports us to the end of the maze. Here, we encounter the Whisper Machine, a machine that is threatening the entire ship, and a voice over the intercom says,
If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
You step in and fall over dead, ending the game. Except, Davey comes in and pulls you back a couple moments and removes a fix in the game that Coda originally put in. Davey shows a glitch that would make you fly up above the level infinitely. He tells us that this glitch inspired Coda to make more experimental games. And with that, he pulls us into the next one. Obviously, this game is about self-sacrifice for the greater good. After all, that's what you have to do to end the game. You have to sacrifice your life to save the lives of others. But I think it's the ending of the game that's interesting. There's the first ending, the one Coda intended for us to see. It's not glamorous, you walk in, you die, the floor, the end. Self-sacrifice isn't glamorous. It's not something to look at positively. Then there's the version Davey shows us, where we walk in and we don't clearly die. Rather, we ascend, as if there's some sort of glory to self-sacrifice. I think this is a very good game to keep in mind as we learn more about our two main characters. In this game, you can only walk backwards.
The past was behind her, but the future could not be seen. Why does the future keep changing? When she stops and looks, it becomes clearer.
It's a unique game compared to some of Coda's later work.
But if the future was always behind her, how will she find the strength to confront it?
It's a quick, small game, and by the end, Davey says a couple lines and moves on.
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that. Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
This one is neat. I liked it on my first playthrough and then never really thought much about it again. Well, until writing this script. It's a weird one to analyze since the meaning is so in your face. You're forced to walk backwards, and the entire time it talks about the future and whatnot. At least I thought that I actually sat down and really took a look at it, and well, it's actually a little bit more out there. It's not the usual avoidance of confronting the past. In fact, the very last line refers to avoiding confronting the future. So, what does it mean? I believe the message of this game is letting go of the past and moving forwards.
The past was behind her,
This line refers to the past as behind you in the passage of time.
but the future could not be seen.
Both in-game and in life, you cannot see the future. No one has clairvoyance, no matter what they might claim.
Why does the future keep changing?
This is representative of the butterfly effect and how actions made in the present changes the future.
When she stops and looks, it becomes clearer.
When she consciously takes the time to look forward, she can see the path laid out before her.
But if the future was always behind her,
Although she may know where she's going, she continues to walk backwards, continues to look towards the past and focus on it as she moves forward by walking backwards to the future.
how will she find the strength to confront it?
If you stay stuck in the past, you won't be able to confront the future. You won't be able to react and truly see what comes next. You have to look forward. Having now analyzed this one, I think it shares similarities to a reoccurring important symbol later in the story. This game is small. Oh, and that was the whole game, by the way. That one sign. Keep it in mind, though. I think this game is important to showing a bit more of the person Davey is.
I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
As you head up to the top of the stairs, you eventually slow to a crawl and cannot continue moving forwards.
So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
And with that, Davey leads you into a room Coda never intended for you to see. It's full of notes and different game ideas, like one about having the solution to one game being shown in another.
Coda would often tell me that he didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that he knew that he was actually a vibrant and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
This game stood out as a memorable one on my first playthrough. It's a game about seeing into who Coda is and the ideas in his head. But it's actually completely flipped, in my opinion. Rather than showing us who Coda is as a person, we get a glimpse of who Davey is, what Davey believes about people and creations. We are confronted with this staircase that, although it takes a long time to climb, is possible to reach the top. It takes work, persistence. It's exactly like what Davey said to us about Coda. After enough time, you get to see the warm person inside. However, Davey tries to shortcut this. He gives us the ability to speed this process up, get right to the meat of the game, right to the meat of the person. I think this game will make more sense in time. This game is the first time the reoccurring puzzle appears. You walk through a couple rooms and then appear before a door with a lever on it. You pull the lever, opening the door, and step into the next room. In order to get the lever for the next door, you need to pull the original lever again, closing the door behind you, and leaving you in the dark space between. And eventually, you see the switch on the inside of the door that closed, and you pull it, opening the door in front of you. A simple puzzle, a simple solution. Okay, wait, stop, go back. Right there, those 3 dots. This is the 3rd time we've seen them now. First in Whisper, then backwards, now here. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what they are yet, but I'm sure Davey's seen them. He'll give us an answer soon enough. After walking down the rest of the hallway, you reach an ending room, and Davey then grants us the ability to look outside the map and see all the things that were hidden from view. It ends up showing this beautiful, almost maze-like structure.
How about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior, and then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
This game had a title, Let's Go Fishing. Interesting title for a game that is referred to as nothing but puzzle everywhere else. And I think I get it. I'll be honest, this one took me a hard second to figure out, but I like where I ended up. I think this game is more a reflection of life itself in a way. Now, without getting into spoilers about what I think about the meaning of the puzzle, I think this hallway that goes until it doesn't is like that of a life. You can see your own life inside and out. You know what happens in your life, but you don't really know what happens in others. There are walls, for better or for worse. You can't see into the other fish in the sea. But Davey comes in, and he takes down those walls. Now everything is on display, not just others' lives, but Coda's as well. Again, I think this is interesting to look at in the context of a later game. And here we are again. Almost the exact same place, just a different sign, a different name. It's a continuation. It shows connection, right? Well, I couldn't tell you from the in-universe perspective of Davey and Coda, but from a meta perspective, it only makes sense for it to show a linkage of ideas. Which, I think, in the context of the analysis of the previous 2 games, makes sense. First, there is a game about the experience of trying to get to know someone, how it takes a long time, how it takes effort, but it's worth it in the end. Then there's Puzzle, where it shows how every person has their own life and you can only ever truly see your own life in full. I don't think there's supposed to be a lot to this, other than the introduction of the idea that games can be connected and that themes and symbols can carry on between games. It's an introduction to the rest of the overall game, if you will, which is exactly why I split part 1 almost right after this. However, there is one more game we should explore before moving on to part 2. This game is interesting. For the size of the game, it's a lot less of a coherent one per se. See, you start off in this white void and walk up to this restaurant. In what I presume is the kitchen area, a staircase descends to far below the earth. A black void underneath with a bunch of geometric shapes that you have to jump down to progress. Then, at the bottom you enter a prison. You follow down this long path and are brought into a prison cell.
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that. This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible?
You continue, up a set of stairs, and then out and into this courtyard. Oh, and there they are again. Those exact same 3 dots. And Davey doesn't say anything. Weird. However, here the puzzle also makes another appearance, the exact same solution as last time. But it leads you down a series of interesting hallways before you appear before a set of 3 figures with cubes for heads.
You there. Did you come from up above? What was up there?
Yes, there were these floating colored blocks.
That's the world above. You've been there. Now, this is important. Did you have to get through a puzzle with 2 doors and switches?
Yes, I did. That was literally the last thing I did before coming here.
Again, perfect. Now please, tell us how you solved it. Tell us the solution. Tell us how to get to the other side.
Trust me, you don't want to go over there.
Oh, no, but I do. We do. We need to get there. Do you understand? It is the most important thing in the world. We have to escape this prison. There must be an ending. I promise you, there is nothing I want more.
You continue forward a little more and appear before another 3 people.
Hello. How did you get here? Was there a puzzle you had to pass through?
Yes. Do you want to know how to solve it?
No, we actually find the black space between the doors to be far more interesting. Have you seen it yet?
Why would I care about the space between the doors?
There is a reason, but it may take time before you understand, which is fine. You'll see it again soon.
And from there, you walk out and down one more staircase and appear before a lamppost.
It's a lamppost. Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason, Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
I don't like this lamppost. This game is intriguing, because on one hand it's very different from the games that Coda has made previously. However, it's also very much an ending to the first act of this story. It introduces things that follow Coda's games for the rest of the story. It introduces the chat system, it introduces the lampposts, it introduces a more nonsensical game. And that's what makes the game hard to analyze. It's very out there. But Coda's games have many reoccurring symbols, the 3 dots, the puzzle door, etc. But one that stands out to me in specific for this game is that of light and darkness. You start off in this world of light, and it's only by descending, going through the puzzle, that you make it to outside, to homes, to the darkness. The NPCs in this game are interesting because they are opposites of each other. The first ones are people who are uptight, panicked, desperate to try and get to the light, to the world above. Yet, the second ones are calm, easygoing. They're comfortable. They find the black space between the doors as the most interesting. The title of this game that Coda made, The Great and Lovely Descent, shows that the darkness is what's good. It's where you are supposed to go, supposed to move towards. I have a theory as to what the darkness is, but I need to show you some more games first. What's interesting, though, is that in the final room, near all the homes, is a lamppost, illuminating the darkness. It's odd.
This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually. Oh, feel free to skip over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen if you read all of them.
I think this is an interesting statement from Davey. He talks about how Coda was patient with him, but isn't patient enough to let us read through all the notes.
That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work.
First, this entire level is full to the brim of different notes and interesting architecture. It's honestly one of the more atmospheric games in the collection. Just the music and environment compounded with all these notes left behind from people before you. It gives a sense of loneliness. Yet, through this loneliness, you aren't alone. You're following this path of all these people before you. So many people have gone through this exact same adventure you're continuing on now.
At the end of this level, we're going to see the puzzle again. And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means. Each of these games represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one.
Second, along the way through it, there's another staircase descending downwards, where, on the wall, once again, is the 3 dots. And again, Davey says nothing.
In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on.
And then, lastly, at the bottom of this staircase is the puzzle, again. Notes are scattered around exclaiming about how they can't get through. But eventually, you solve the puzzle and make it through.
And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. Just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
Are you there? Please say something. It can be anything. I just need you to say something. Talk to me. Please. Why are you having so much difficulty talking? Speak. 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 Speak.
Davey offered his belief on what the puzzle is supposed to represent. I disagree slightly with what he thinks, though. See, he takes the puzzle to represent moving on, that the black space is a spot where you can take a breath to reflect, but that you cannot stay there, you have to move on. I disagree with this. I personally have a different interpretation, but I think we need a little more context before I can show what I think. However, I believe it directly ties into the concept of darkness and light. But, in terms of the game as a whole, it's curious. I think the meaning shifts as you play it. First, before the puzzle room, it feels to me that it's almost supposed to represent life in a way. How you travel down a path alone, yet not really. People have been here before you and have left their mark. You aren't alone because people have done this before you. Then the puzzle comes, and whatever the puzzle means, whatever it is, the majority of people don't make it past for one reason or another. And it's on the other side that I think the meaning shifts. It recontextualizes everything prior to some extent. It becomes a game about finding the truth, solving the puzzle, and pulling back the curtain. It's no longer a friendly game about following the same path others have. It's about being trapped on it. It's only by solving the puzzle and making it to the other side do you gain the understanding of the truth of the world you exist in. The notes change from signs and words of others, a point of connection, to words of those privileged enough to type them from those typewriters. Your belief and understanding has been manipulated. It's a reflection on the complexities of the world. You cannot take everything at face value. There is depth to the words you read and what you hear beyond what is told to you. Okay, a lot is about to happen here. So, as Davey says,
Hang with it.
first off, we start in this prison with a well that is visible through the bars. You then head down a hallway and arrive at the bottom of this well. Simple and quick, right? Well, Coda ends up making a couple other versions. The next version has you being asked what changes should be made to this empty room. Except none of your choices matter. Then the walls fall away and you're in a maze of furniture. Next version is a guide to escaping any prison. It has you going through a series of steps, another unmentioned instance of the 3 dots, and then eventually sends you back to the prison. However, it removes the table that's vital for this sequence to escape to begin.
Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside. Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen of them. Personally, I think it's awful to watch this, to see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go, maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on? But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop, that particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going, and then he hits on something.
Before we go into this next section, I want to go back to what Davey just said.
Personally, I think it's awful to watch this, to see a person basically unraveling through their work.
Keep this in mind when we head into the next game. But first, we have to finish this one, and the final form this game ended up taking. You walk out into this field with a phone and another lamppost. The phone's ringing.
Hello? Who is this?
Hey, it's me. I'm you after you escaped the prison.
You're me? So you were trapped in the prison too?
Yep. I was in the furniture maze.
That's where I am right now. I'm so glad to know that I get out eventually. What's it like to escape?
Actually, I'm already forgetting what being in prison was like.
Really? How long has it been since you got out?
Only a few minutes, but somehow it's already fuzzy. Kind of like it never happened.
But this is the worst and most desperate thing I've ever been through. How could you possibly forget it?
You don't ever forget it. You just stop identifying with it.
Wait, if you're me, then did you get a call from another version of you when you were trapped?
No, I think I'm the first person to call back.
Then can you tell me how to get out? Maybe I can come find you. What do I have to do?
To get out, just talk with me for a bit.
What? That will free me? How does that work?
Listen, you can't know until you're out, but I promise it works.
Okay. I can talk. Let's just talk for a bit. Will you be here?
I will be here for as long as you need. You know, whenever I think back to this level, it used to be one of my least favorites. But I think I like it the most now. Here's the thing. Davey misunderstands this game fundamentally. It's not one game that came to be over multiple iterations. They are each different prisons. Each of them are different prisons people get stuck in, their own prisons, and after playing them, you come to this last game where you're out of that prison, where you're in this dark space, almost exactly like that of the puzzle, and there's a single phone with yourself on the other end, a version of you that is trapped in the prison you just left. You talk with yourself, and you tell them how to get out of their own personal prison. You don't tell them that there is some pre-built escape method or some other way of getting out. They just have to sit there with themselves, you, and talk. Say how they feel, be sincere, and just have an internal dialogue. These games represent the human experience of feeling trapped. But they are different games, different prisons, that represent the different situations that different people can feel trapped in. It's within these that different meanings, different messages surrounding this experience can be found. Take the version where you are given instructions for how to escape, but once you make it to the prison, you can't begin the process. The guide doesn't work for you. People's situations are different. There is not an answer that will solve every single person's situation. And that's why I love the final version so much. It's the one that finally gives an answer of sorts. It's the one that finally presents the player with the knowledge of how to truly escape the prison from someone who's already out of it. Inside a phone booth, out in the darkness of the sky, you have a conversation with yourself, and you tell your past self that all they have to do is talk with you. That's the answer. Not exactly an action, but just talking to yourself, having a true and honest conversation with yourself. It's not necessarily that doing that will free you, it won't, but it's by doing that that you will get closer to your answer. Not the answer, because the answer doesn't exist. You have to find what works best for you. And the only way to do that is by having an honest conversation with yourself. You have to engage in self-reflection. I think it's a beautiful message, one that leads straight into a beautiful game.
To me, this environment is meant to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between.
Well, my goodness, I'm glad as all heck that you showed up. Thought I might be having to clean this entire house all by myself. And right miserable that would have been. Everyone knows lonesome hands make lousy homes.
Are we cleaning this whole place?
That's the story, little one. Oh, don't you worry now, we'll be through this mess in no time. I promise you'll wish there was more. Why don't I finish up here? In the meantime, could you please clear the table? Much nicer. That's the table I want to see. Now would you please run into the bedroom and make the bed?
This game's my favorite out of all of them.
While you're in there, why don't you straighten out the rug a bit? All the little details matter.
How'd you end up doing this job?
A friend dragged me along at a time when I was particularly desperate for cash. Turns out I've never felt so good doing something for money in my life. Never did like cleaning my own home. I might have got some demons I ain't ready to face yet. Oh, speaking of demons, someone put this couch all in a mess. Would you come out and straighten these pillows here? Oh dear. Looks like someone spilled a drink over by the couch. Maybe mop that up as long as you're over there? I feel compelled to share an incredibly cheesy personal insight. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'll try to get by.
No, it was stupid, sorry. Never mind. Hey, these dishes need to be washed. Why don't you come do that? Last I checked, the tub needed a cleaning. How about you scrub it down as best as you can? No need to be perfect. We're all just human.
It's just so special to me.
Are there still books scattered on the floor of the bedroom? If so, would you put them back on the shelf?
The music, the ambience.
Perfect. Now then, how about you come clear these dishes off the table?
The quiet peacefulness. House cleaning is so difficult. How do you do it?
Darling, let me tell you something. Your house is only as difficult to clean as you are. If you're finding the work hard, maybe you have a bit of housekeeping to do before you come to work. Ha! And here I go with another lecture. Of course I would. Don't you worry about all that nonsense. For now, just smooth out the rug in the bedroom.
I know that Coda really liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at it. This was during a period of a few months where he was, grossly happy all the time. Just walked around with a constant smile on his face.
Looks like the tub has gotten rather dirty. Would you mind tidying it up a bit? Earlier, when I said I had a really cheesy thought, I was going to say that it occurs to me that one's house is a lot like one's soul. You take care of it and it takes care of you. Don't know why I felt so weird about saying that.
But there's a bit of truth in it, no?
Anyway, housekeeping. Let's keep doing this. Books. Would you please clean up the books? Thanks.
It just...
Oh goodness, those pillows over there on the couch are a real mess. Would you go over there and straighten them up a bit? Can't have these folks coming home to a messy couch.
It makes me feel at home.
Question. Do you enjoy this?
But, of course, it can't last. The music stops, your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive. Which is the whole point of the puzzle doors, right? That sooner or later you have to pick up and move. I really thought that was the point of it.
This is my favorite game, but you know that. This game made me feel at home like it has so many people. This game is different than the others. I think it serves a completely different purpose. I think that it is intentionally spelled out to you rather than being obscured. It requires less analysis, less clues. The Housekeeper talks about housekeeping. It's a symbol. It reflects that of self-care. You tend for the house and eventually the tasks start repeating because to some extent, you always have to work on yourself, care for yourself. It can be repetitive, but it's important. The player asks in the beginning if they're cleaning the whole house. It's overwhelming, scary, but it's the job they have to do. If you avoid the scary thing, the house would fall into disrepair. But the housekeeping is only half the story. The other half is the relationship between the player and the housekeeper. They don't know each other by the time the game starts, but by the end you can't help but feel connected to them. The housekeeper starts worried to say something cheesy, but eventually does. It fosters the connection. The vulnerability the housekeeper shows throughout the game is what fosters the connection. It was scary for the housekeeper, but it was important. The things people are scared to do, scared to acknowledge, often end up being the most important. But this game ends up having a meaning on a broader level too. It has a context within the broader story, and because of Davey. It's very much supposed to be a peaceful game, but it cuts, and all of that emotional coziness is ripped away. It's shocking, it makes you feel bad, and Davey calls it intended. That you aren't supposed to stay here and feel this way.
Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
He calls it the meaning of the puzzle doors.
Which is the whole point of the puzzle doors, right? That sooner or later you have to pick up and move. I really thought that was the point of it.
And I think this is where he fundamentally gets the puzzle wrong. And I believe this is also the best part for me to finally explain what I believe the puzzle means. I think With retrospect to the game's entering and exiting, we can apply the idea that games can be connected and that they can link into each other. I think Notes, Escape, and House all link together to represent different fundamental ideas about the puzzle. When you approach the puzzle, this game, House, teaches us that it's scary, it's vulnerable, but it's also important. It's a part of housekeeping, a part of self-care. So you flip the first lever, step inside, and close it on yourself. You become trapped in the dark space. But the dark space isn't inherently bad. It's void of everything, even light, but still, it is not bad. It's void of noise, which is what you need. Escape shows us that you have to talk to yourself. You have to engage in self-reflection. You have to sit there with yourself in the quiet and truly be honest and vulnerable with yourself. It isn't an activity that others can solve for you. Only you can flip the inside switch. And as you come out of the dark space, as Note shows us, you leave with a revelation. New wisdom about yourself or the world around you. You can understand something that you didn't previously. I love the puzzle so much more now that I feel like I understand it. It's genuinely encouraging and an amazing symbol. But this collection isn't finished. We have to move forward. This game is interesting, a large tone shift from the games prior.
Why did you come here today? Was it to improve your life? Was it to get a better job? Was it to make your relationships more meaningful? No. You came here to be perfect. This workshop is going to teach you how to be perfect. I want your friends, the people in your life, to look at you and think, wow, this person is a better human being than I am. Right now, who do you think about that way in your own life? Who do you know who is so well developed as a person that they make you feel disgusted with yourself, compared to whom you feel useless, selfish, ungrateful? I intend to make you into that person. Perfection is within your grasp. And the question is not, how do we do it, but how do we do it effortlessly? This is easy. It is so easy. It is so easy. Being perfect is effortless.
And then the perspective shifts, and you become the teacher. And now you can see a black hole in the back of the room. This is the key. How do I achieve it with no effort? And there's the lamppost, randomly among the seats. Well, let me tell you right now, if it isn't effortless, then it's not the right answer. Each time text pops up, however, there's a choice to either follow the lecture or to deviate. If you are torturing yourself trying to find the right solutions for your life, you're not doing it right. Perhaps deviate isn't the right term. It's more like you can see what the professor actually thinks and who they actually are. Seek out only one thing. What is the easiest, simplest path forward? I think it's interesting seeing inside the professor's head. They're clearly written in a way for us to perceive them negatively. There is no truth. There is no path. Here we get a glimpse of actual self-doubt. Do what is easiest. Do what is simplest. Feel what is true. But we don't get to continue with it. It's overshadowed by the black hole in the room. Nothing. No one. And for this last one, you don't get a choice at all. Perfection. This game, honestly, was one of the tougher ones to figure out. It very much seems to be attempting to tell one story, but throughout it all, there is a black hole in the room that takes the focus. First off, the professor is not written to be quote-unquote a good person. They're flawed, narcissistic, and they have substance issues. At the same time, I believe the professor is trying, though. I think that's shown through how each time the player is given a choice. They can choose to continue the monologue, continue trying to be the teacher who helps their students, or they can choose one of the other responses. I'm not saying what the professor is saying is right or good. However, I believe that they believe what they're saying is true. The teaching is false, though. It inverts the truth and pushes it to 11 to showcase that. The truth of the puzzle that has been built up shows us this too. The teaching talks about trying to be effortlessly perfect. It tells you that the right choices are supposed to be easy, simple, that you just have to feel what is true. But that's not true. Making the right choices, being a better person, requires challenging yourself, and it's never easy. It's never simple. It takes effort. But it's one of the most important things you can do. And then there's the ominous black hole-shaped elephant in the room. This one took me a minute to figure out, but I think the answer is revealed through the optional dialogue. There's a reason only the professor can see it. It's clear that the professor has been avoiding their problems and trying to take the easy route at every turn. But they can't run forever. Their first instinct is to tell everyone to run. And the other option is again another insecurity and fear of the professor. That whatever this black hole represents, a problem, some unconfronted truth, they worry it's going to destroy them. But in reality, the black hole is just a huge form of dark space. They can either run from it until they can't, or they can confront it.
I felt pretty hard for this one. I feel like it's one of the most relatable experiences that you can have. To assume that some other person is perfect and totally fulfilled in every way, and completely miss all of the little flaws that make them painfully human. I think about this game a lot these days.
Before we get into part 3, I think I need to change how I'm handling the games. Up until this point, I've refrained from relating the games to Coda and Davey at all. I treated them as their own works that may have been connected to each other, but I have never connected a character directly to Davey or Coda. However, I think, starting here, I'm going to start having to. There are some painfully obvious parallels to Coda and Davey coming up, as well as the final game being one directly made for Davey. That being said, let us begin Part 3, Entropy.
This one took a lot longer than all the others for Coda to make. It was 4 months between this and the last one. That's twice as long as it took him to make any other game before this, and it's not like it's particularly complex, so I remember I found that a little strange at the time.
All right, the performance is beginning. Places, please. In this scene, you will be playing as me. We are at a gathering of professionals. First, you'll start out leaning against this wall. Good, stay right there. The woman across the room, in this chair, is a professional photographer of animals. It's your dream to photograph animals professionally. This is your one chance to learn something from her, to gain something, to succeed. Go on, say something to her.
Hello.
Hello? That's it? That's not a conversation. You need to actually converse with her, be a human being. Do it again.
Here are all my hopes and dreams.
Nope, that's not what I said to her at all. You're completely missing the tone of the conversation. I was reserved, but I knew what I wanted. I was confident. For some reason, it was just that one moment, but I was confident. Maybe it's that you need a better feel of the setting. There were a lot of people around us. I'll give you some props to work with. These cones that bounce when you touch them will represent the people nearby. Now go talk to her again.
You must have worked really hard to get where you are.
You're messing it all up again! You'll freak her out if the conversation gets that personal that quickly. Do you not realize how important this was for me? I'll never get another opportunity like this again. Everything was riding on this. I want to try something. Try stepping back from the stage.
Okay, yes! Now this
The
is
game
working.
ends with this
This is
eerie
what it was
premonition
like.
of what's going to happen next in Coda's life. The solution to social anxiety,
perfect.
to
Wonderful.
fears of having
Really
to
wonderful.
perform and having to chase success, the answer for Coda is to withdraw, to hide himself away. Which is what leads to scenarios like the stairs that slowed you down
doing
several
great.
games ago, where it just becomes harder and harder to access Coda's inner landscape because he keeps retreating. He just keeps backing away from possible connections to anyone other than himself. And to be honest, I didn't consider it very healthy when I first played this game. You know, it looked to me like he was trying to justify the idea of just disconnecting yourself from the world. And that wasn't what I wanted for him or for his games. Because I feel like a lot of his games are inviting me to connect with this person, to bring him closer.
Sorry, I realize I didn't say anything during that. Well, I guess there wouldn't have been much to add. This game is kind of weird, right? Like, it's surprisingly negative, but it does reuse the prison motif. I previously established that the prison represents a state of being trapped and having to find your own way out. So, in this game, we're shown someone trying to give a good first impression to someone they admire before an omniscient voice tries to push them away and lock them in their own prison. However, their prison is that of the dark space. I think there are two different ways to interpret this story. First, there is the independent way. The player is clearly trying to be the same person as the omniscient voice, but they can't. They are trying to be someone they're not. And it's this pursuit of this that leads them to becoming trapped, stuck in a prison because they fail to be someone they're not. You have to accept and choose to be yourself, because otherwise you'll be trapped playing the role of someone else like an actor. And while I do think this is a perfectly valid and good interpretation, you could also interpret this story in the wider context of Davey and Coda. I believe that the player we play as is Davey, and that the woman in the chair represents Coda. And I believe that this game is supposed to be a retelling of how the two met. First, we need to flash back to what Davey said in notes.
This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually.
There are parallels between the two versions. First, the many people around for a gathering. Then, how Davey's dream was the same as what Coda was already doing. Then, with how quick and pushy Davey was to become friends with Coda. It's because of this that I think we finally get Coda's perspective of how it went down. It's obfuscated a bit, but the parallels still lie there. But it's what happens afterwards that interests me so much. The omniscient voice locks the player away in a prison, locks the player away in the dark space, alongside the track name of the song that plays in the background being Leave Me Alone. I think that this game is Coda venting about wanting Davey to leave him alone and to have to experience the dark space. The reason why will make sense. You just need to give it more time. Unlike this next game. Mobius. This game moves so quick and has so much to break down. Let's just see what happens first.
The only way to stop it is to speak something that's honest.
I can't keep making these.
Yes, that's it. That's the truth.
I don't feel like it anymore.
Keep going. Keep talking.
I thought it was going to be easy.
You're doing it. It's working.
I'm alone.
We're going to be okay.
Jesus, okay. Where do we start here? Okay, first off, in case you missed it, we're on a ship called the SS Whisper, in space, and we're crashing into one side of the puzzle doors. Also, both the lamppost and the 3 dots make another appearance. We then have to reveal a truth about how this person cannot keep creating something. For one of the shortest games, basically everything is crammed into here. First off, the ship. We're on a ship named after the Whisper machine all the way back in Coda's first real game. So is this the same ship? Well, it could be, but I'm going to assume not due to differences in architecture and color. In the first game, the day is saved through self-sacrifice. But in this game, we're being told that self-sacrifice isn't the answer. We have to tell the truth and be honest, and it's only through that is the crash avoided. I'll be honest, it took me a little while to solve this one, and I think the answer lies in the 2 motifs that are at the forefront of this game, the puzzle and the SS Whisper. First, let's go back to the second game of Coda's, Whisper. In this game, the Whisper machine represents self-sacrifice, and Coda's intended experience showed self-sacrifice as unglamorous. I also previously established that I took the puzzle to represent introspection, or a confrontation with yourself. With these in mind, I believe that Coda is trying to tell us that a self-sacrificial mentality where you give everything you can, as represented by both the dialogue of our player character as well as the fact we're on a ship named after a representation of self-sacrifice, will lead into a burnout and a crash if you refuse to acknowledge it. Avoiding to admit that you need help will lead into a forced confrontation with yourself in the dark space.
Like I said, I was getting concerned. First off, he's never been this explicit in his work about exactly what he's thinking. So where's that coming from? But then even weirder, his work has potentially stopped being an outlet for him. Not like he's having trouble iterating on ideas, but he literally just can't think of new ideas anymore. And in person, he was being a lot more distant than usual. Like, you know how sometimes a person will just deflect anything that you say in order to keep themselves disconnected all the time? It was that kind of thing. Here was the point in my relationship with Coda where I really started to wonder if he needed my help in some way. His games are going to get more desperate from here on out. After this game, it's almost 6 months before he finishes something new.
Hello? Hello? Is anyone there?
Is that a person? How lovely! It's been a long time since I talked to anyone. What's wrong? You look lost.
I have nothing left to give to my work.
Oh no! What happened? Did something change?
There was a machine that kept me going, and it stopped.
Wait, you're looking for a machine? I think I know where it is. It isn't far.
You have to take me to it. And there's the 3 dots again.
I can do that, but
If the last game featured Coda talking explicitly about his creative frustrations, this one turns it up to 11.
if you can
Now,
help me
put
solve
yourself in
it,
my shoes playing this.
we'll
Here's a
find the
friend
machine.
whose work is exhibiting signs of struggle, frustration, anxiety, depression, even. And yet, still, he keeps making games.
Perfect.
He keeps throwing
Come
himself
on.
into the grinder
I'll show
even
it
when
to
he
you.
clearly doesn't have the energy for it anymore. Why? What is it for? Because
Here's
from
the
my
puzzle.
perspective at the time
What do you
and
think?
just what I knew of him, This was a result of how isolated
I've
he was.
solved this puzzle
He was
before.
in his own little bubble, just sitting at his computer all day, not really showing these games to anyone,
How to do it?
not releasing them onto
First,
the internet,
you have to open the
and so
Okay.
he didn't have
Now what?
anyone outside of himself to connect with. He had no
Now you have
outlet
to
to
close the
ground
first
himself on.
All right. What's next?
Now, just press this switch here.
That was so simple. I
You
can't believe I
can't
never saw that
talk
before
yourself
this.
out of loneliness. It doesn't work that way. You can't be the one writing both the questions and the answers. Then there's no movement. Then there's no circulation. If all of your anxieties
Okay,
are being channeled
here
into
we
your
are.
work, then if the work ever fails, you have no backup and you're just going to crash.
There's no machine here.
Trust me. You'll see. You have to say that your work is fun and easy. You have to say that game development is simple and joyous and that you love it 100% of the time.
Alright. Making games is effortless.
That feels wonderful.
But it wasn't true.
Don't worry about it. Just keep talking. Keep saying that creation is easy.
I am constantly excited and enthusiastic about my work.
Yes. That's
Seeing this game at
wonderful.
the time that he made it
Keep
looked
going.
really unhealthy to me. I was watching him do this to himself, and I hated it. I hated seeing him so trapped. It's like, video games are not worth this amount of suffering.
Just never stop creating and you'll never feel bad.
This is someone I really cared about.
That feels
And I used to get so much joy out of seeing him create. For him to suddenly become angry and frustrated like this, it was the worst thing for me.
Please, where is the machine?
Patience. You have to trust me. I promise. This will work. Please, continue.
Any sacrifices made for my work are worth it 100% of the time.
I don't
Yes.
know. This is what I felt
Or-
at the time.
Keep going.
I don't know how else to explain it. I wanted it to stop more than anything. I had never felt so rotten. I needed more than I had ever needed anything for this to stop.
I will be saved by my work.
Incredible. That's it. I'm free. I'm free.
This game is less dense than Mobius, but still a lot. It feels like a continuation of the story prior. It seems to be the same character from the previous game now attempting to figure out why they've lost the ability to create like they once did. It's a clear representation of burnout, and trying to find that machine that used to allow you to create what felt like endlessly. Here's what I find interesting about this game though. On the player's search for a solution, they are looking in the white void, not the dark space. The white void is the complete antithesis of the dark space. It represents avoidance of the real problems, hence the search for some machine rather than going through the puzzle. When we do get to the puzzle door as players, it looks the exact same as the one from Mobius. Just because we didn't crash into it doesn't mean we don't still have to confront it. We just don't get hurt as much in the process. However, there's also someone else here though. We aren't in the player character's void, we're in hers. And I say this because if you look around, the trees and architecture is very Japan-inspired rather than that of the sci-fi our player character is associated with from Whisper. She is avoiding introspection. Another point towards this is the puzzle. We cannot interact with it directly because it's not our puzzle, it's hers. But we try to tell her the answer that worked for us, and it seemingly works for her too. But think back to the prison game. The only way out of the prison is through having an honest conversation with yourself, not being given the answers from someone else. That's why it doesn't work in the end, why she's still trapped. Just because we've solved the same puzzle doesn't mean the same solution will work for everyone. When she tells us to say these horrible things about ourselves, it makes her feel better. She thinks it's helping her, and after destroying all the walls and hurting ourselves a lot, she feels so much better that she thinks she's free. But she isn't, because putting other people down doesn't help you. It just hurts them.
But it didn't stop. After finishing this one, Coda takes another 7 months and comes up with a new game.
Ma'am, glad to see you've arrived safely. We've captured the machine. It's waiting for you now. You can begin the interrogation whenever you like.
I intend to be quick.
Very good. Just be warned that someone called the press, so we might have a bit of a tension on this one. Also, one more thing you should know about the machine. It calls itself Coda.
And of course, it's the machine.
You stopped. Your work was keeping us healthy. It was only because of your creations that any of us could make it through every day. So, here's what needs to happen. You need to go to the people who are out there and apologize to them. No? Nothing. Alright then. I will speak to them for you. My friends, it falls on me to deliver bad news. The machine will not apologize to us. We will find a way to live without it. We do not need its games. Let us pay it retribution. Follow me. We will destroy everything that the machine has created. Coda, I'll make sure your work dies here.
So now the work is becoming self-destructive. And I'll tell you, at the time that I first played this game, shortly after he made it, here's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking that Code is stuck in his own head, and that it's having a very negative effect on him, and that all he needs to do is just start showing his work to people, to get some actual feedback on his games. It might get him out of isolation. And so, as I'm thinking this, I realize that I could be the one to initiate it. Because it would never occur to Coda to start actively soliciting feedback, so what if I did it for him? If he could see the difference it would make to have more actual conversations with other human beings, would that bring him out of his mental spiral? Would it give him confidence in himself? Would it bring meaning back into his work? So I started showing Coda's work to people. I took this one, and the islands which you just played, the theater, the notes, the house cleaning game, and some of the prison escape games. I brought them to people that I knew and trusted. I asked their opinions. And the great part is that they really loved his games. You know, the point of it all was just to give him some external reference point, but they genuinely loved his work. There was nothing for him to be afraid of.
Put down your weapon.
Can you see why I felt like this was the right thing to do? Because it's the thing that I always feel like I need, to be told that my work is good, that I am good. When someone really connects with a thing that I've made, when they see themselves purely in my work, there's nothing that feels better. And I got to give that very same feeling to my friend. I did something... I really felt like I'd done something good, like I was a good person. I felt like there was a friend who was in trouble and was unhappy and maybe didn't like themselves, and I could fix it. If I could give him this gift, maybe I could fix the problem. When they told me how much they enjoyed his games, it was the best feeling. It was the absolute best feeling. It made me feel so happy. So beautifully, beautifully happy.
This is the first time it is outright confirmed for a character to represent a person, with the machine representing Coda. There is also the interviewer. She represents someone who has an unhealthy attachment to Coda's work. I say this because she expects an apology from the creator, and when Coda doesn't give one, she decides to destroy everything he ever made. But what's interesting is the destruction process. Everywhere you shoot, you reveal the white void. She's taking the games that are about introspection, the dark space, and trying to drown them in the white void. It's destroying the games both literally as well as by what the works mean. I want to draw attention to the specific games too. Lecture, Notes, Stairs. Lecture has direct ties to how Davey met Coda. Then Notes is the game that Coda was working on when Davey met him. And lastly, Stairs was about how it can be a long, persistent climb to really get to know someone. But she destroys the level and falls into the puzzle. It's almost like Coda is trying to force her to introspect. But after this, she appears before Coda and shoots him. What's interesting, though, is that it doesn't hurt or destroy Coda like it does his games. Rather, the machine just takes it, as if it's nothing. I believe it represents the fact that although you can take his games and alter them or their meanings, destroy what they were meant to be, you can't hurt him. He doesn't rely on what the player values or thinks about him.
So anyway, Coda finishes this game, and then really he just kind of takes off for a while. So this is June of 2011. And I didn't hear anything from him for several weeks, I guess. And so out of nowhere, one day I get an email, and it's got a private link to a new game of Coda's. This one is called The Tower, and to my knowledge, it's the last game that Coda ever made. So let's take a look.
I think I'm going to leave you for a little bit. I think this game and the epilogue is best experienced without any intervention. I'll see you in a bit.
And this is where I have trouble saying anything meaningful about Coda's work. Because more than anything else, the tower just feels distant. It feels like it's trying to distance itself from the world. It's a very cold game. This room actually has a maze in it. Except that all the walls of the maze are invisible. And then every time you touch one of the walls, there's this awful flashing and noise, so the experience is really miserable. The game goes beyond not being meant to be played, it actually seems to despise the player for trying to play it at all. But I do want to show you the rest of the level, so when you're ready to continue, press enter and I'll put a bridge over the maze. And to be fair, it's not like this is the first game that's needed some modification to be playable. Like the house cleaning game. You know, that one used to actually loop the cleaning chores and you just cleaned a house forever. I had to cut it off so that you could exit the house and the game would actually end. But that game had an idea that it was actually trying to communicate. What's the deeper idea behind the invisible maze? The only way past this challenge is to randomly guess the 6-digit code. Like the invisible maze, it's frustrating to me, because it's the opposite of everything else that Coda has made. It doesn't encourage thought or engagement. It doesn't ask anything of me, except a lot of my time. If I could have reached him during this time, then maybe I could have asked him, but I couldn't. I still don't really understand why this is here. I'll put the code on the ground for you here, though, so that we can move on. The switch to open this door is actually on the other side of the door, meaning that it's literally impossible to solve from this side. So even if you somehow brute forced your way through the first 2 challenges and you got to this point, there's actually just no way to progress. And it's scary for me, the idea of Coda cutting himself off entirely, just saying, you know, that's it, that's the end of the conversation, not giving me any way to fix the problem. I feel like a failure, I guess, when I can't fix the problem. But I can open this door for you, so let me do that. Was I a failure for not understanding this game? I mean, I don't know why I would be. It's not like everything needs to have a solution, but I feel it somehow. I feel like I failed, and I don't understand why. I remember, it's June of 2011. I'm playing this for the very first time, and as I'm playing, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know this person. I have no idea who this person is. It wasn't the guy I knew, it wasn't my friend. I had come to so many conclusions from looking at all of his work up to this point, and then suddenly none of them... I had been trying to, though. That was the thing. For years, I was trying to get to know him, to understand who he actually was and what he stood for. I asked him so many times to please just tell me what his games mean to him. I asked him please to tell me what the 3 dots mean. And he wouldn't. I just felt so strongly that if I could have connected with him, that if I could have somehow made his work my own, that I would finally be once and for all happy. It was that I needed to see myself in someone else. I needed to be someone other than me. But he stopped and left, and it felt somehow like I had failed. Where did I screw up?
Dear Davey, thank you for your
I'm
interest
the
in my
reason that you
games.
stopped making games, aren't I?
I need to ask you
Because of what I did.
not to speak to me anymore.
I poisoned it for you. I don't think I
I
ever
wonder
told
at
you this,
times
but
whether you
when I
think
took your
I'm
work
making
and I
these
was
games
showing
for
it
you.
to people, it actually felt... it felt as though I were responsible for something important and valuable.
You've so infected my
And
personal space
the
that
people who played
it's
them,
possible.
they
I
treated
did
me
begin
like
to plant
I was
solutions in my
important.
work somewhere,
They really
hidden
listened
between
and
games.
cared about what I had to say. Even though I was showing your work, it was... I felt good about myself. Finally, for a moment, while I had that, I liked myself.
If there was an answer, a meaning, would it make you any happier? Would you stop taking my games and showing them to people against my wishes? Giving them something that is not yours to give, violating the one boundary that keeps me safe. Would you stop changing my games? Stop adding lampposts to them. Would you
And then you
simply just
stopped,
let them be
and
what
I
they
didn't
are?
have anything left to show people. I just had to be with myself. And as soon as that happened, there was no feeling at all. Nothing. Less than nothing. What does that mean?
When I am around you, I feel physically ill. You desperately need something, and I cannot give it to you. I literally do not have it. Struggling to come up with new ideas is not making me depressed. Low points are just a part of the process. The fact that you think I am frustrated or broken says more about you than about me. I realize that this doesn't make sense to you just yet, which is fine. You're not my problem to solve. But I do hope that one day it clicks, and that you make peace with this thing you are wrestling.
I'm afraid that I did something really stupid because I don't like myself.
And when you finally see what I'm talking about, don't say anything.
That's why I'm releasing this collection of your work, is because I haven't been able to find any other way to reach you. I've tried everything. And so a part of me has hope that if I put this compilation out into the world, and if I put my name on it, that maybe enough people will play it so that it'll find its way to you, so that I can tell you that I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. If I apologize to you truly and deeply, will you start making games again? Please, I need to feel okay with myself again. And I always felt okay as long as I had your work to see myself in. I mean, is something wrong with me? Because I know that I did an awful thing, and I'm doing it again right now. Like, I'm showing people your work, but I can't stop myself from doing it. That's how badly I need to feel something again, like I'm an addict. There has to be something wrong with me. Can I apologize? What if I tell you I was wrong? Will that work? Will that fix it? I don't know. I don't think it will, but there's nothing else that I can do. Just tell me what you want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, start making games again. Please help me. Please give me some of whatever it is that makes you complete. I want whatever that wholeness is that you just summoned out of nothing and you put into your work. You were complete in some way that I never was. And I want to know how to be a good person. I want to know how not to hate myself. Please. I'm fading, and all I want is to know that I'm going to be okay. More love, more praise, more people telling me that I'm good. Always more. It's like a disease. Solution. I guess if someone had told me ahead of time that he just really enjoyed making prison games, maybe I wouldn't have thought he was so desperate. I wouldn't have told so many people that he was depressed. Maybe he just likes making prisons. Even now, the disease is telling me to stop. Don't show people what a shitty person you are. They'll hate you. If I knew that my life depended on finding something to be driven by other than validation, what would that even be? It's strange, but the thought of not being driven by external validation is unthinkable. Like, I actually cannot conceive of what that would be like. What now? I think I need to go. And I'm sorry, because I know that I said that I would be here and I would walk you through this, but I'm starting to feel like I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot that I need to make up for, and so I'm just gonna... Okay.
What an ending, right? Wow. I'll get to it, but first, let's go back and analyze Tower. I'm not going to talk about Davey and Coda's relationship during this. I'll get to that in another section or two. I just want to talk about the 3 obstacles Davey had to face, and then the final room. First, the invisible maze. I have an idea of what I think the maze is to mean, but I'll wait until the end of my epilogue analysis first. But I think the maze is interesting because it's very much Coda trying to put up a barrier between Davey and the end of this game. He practically made it impossible. That was the point. But Davey ignored this and continued on anyways. He put a bridge above it to skip it, just like all the other skips Davey has done previously. Then there's the 6-digit code. This is actually a test. There is a way to know this code, even though Davey didn't. It's a way of testing to see how well Davey actually knows him. Because in notes, there are 2 notes that share this exact same text. Devil, Tower, Star. The tarot cards 15, 16, and 17 respectively. Devil, the tarot card, represents feelings of entrapment, emptiness, and a lack of fulfillment. The tarot card Tower represents fundamental change of beliefs and values, a change in understanding. And the tarot card Star represents hope and strength, a new mindset after the card of the Tower. Devil, Tower, Star represents the 3 stages of the puzzle door, something that Davey doesn't understand. Lastly, there's the room with no solution. It's one final barrier to Davey. It's Coda establishing a hard boundary to not cross. Davey could have solved the previous 2 legitimately, but to get to Coda's message to him, he has to disrespect and cross this boundary of Coda's. By reaching the message Coda left him, Davey had to have truly broken Coda's last boundary, just like with his games. And the final room is the puzzle, but there isn't an answer. Coda didn't put an answer, a solution, because Coda doesn't have it. Davey has to sit in the dark space. Davey has to introspect. Davey has to find his own solutions. The walls are closing in, and Davey feels lost. This game is the only one made by Davey, which immediately makes this much more challenging to analyze since we don't have previous games to base our understanding off of. Which brings me to my first question. Why does this game exist? It's the only one of Davey's in a collection about Coda. I mean, functionally, maybe just to give more time to wrap up the story, but I want to know what does it mean to Davey, the character. Why is it that Davey made this game? I think it serves to get a glimpse into him. Since this whole time we've been following Coda and what Coda has made and getting glimpses into Coda, now we are given an opportunity to look at Davey and get a glimpse into him. That being said, just like how throughout all of Coda's games we get glimpses into some of the themes of Coda's life, we never get any specifics. There is nothing that we truly gain about who Coda is other than what he is wise about. It's an abstracted version of his life. And I think that's exactly what this is for Davey. Davey talks about how much he relates to Coda's games, and you can see that in what Davey made. If Coda's games are an abstraction of his life, then this game is that for Davey. But we can see similar themes and sets, such as the train station in comparison to Coda's game Mobius, or the mansion as to that of House, then the cave that ends with prison bars just like Coda's escape, then the accessible ramp in comparison to Coda's stairs, then the abstracted desert structures comparison to Coda's first game, then the slow waiting elevator that is similar to the prison of Down, before finally the whisper machine just like Coda's whisper. And it's then from these comparisons that we can draw hints of conclusions about Davey. Mobius was about being on a moving ship that crashes unless you speak something truthful. It was representative of the process of creating and pushing yourself continuously, refusing to stop. But here, it's a train station that you get on by choice rather than being forced to move. To Davey, maybe it's more of a struggle to create, just like it is after Burnout. And there's another point of evidence to this from Escape.
But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop, that particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral.
Davey calls it spiraling, even though Coda was making these with purpose. Even if it was just one idea, he can iterate on it without spiraling. But as Davey's known to do, he projects his beliefs onto Coda. Escape was about how to escape feeling trapped. You have to confront the dark space. But here, the prison bars are huge after a dark, grungy cavern. To Davey, perhaps he's trying to show how overwhelming the prison he's trapped in feels. Then there's Stairs, where Coda shows that it takes a long, persistent climb in order to reach a point where you can see how he really is inside. But for Davey, it's more of an accessible ramp. Almost as if Davey opens up more easily and shares more about himself, which he does, as we can see throughout this entire collection. Then there's the abstract desert, where rather than a town, it's an empty desert. Maybe Davey feels more alone. There's hints of this with how Davey projects onto Coda about Coda being lonely. Then there's the slow elevator. It's similar to that of Down, where the idea is that the prison is a necessary step to have a lovely descent. But instead of waiting during a descent, you're waiting as you ascend. I think it hints to Davey's avoidance of introspection. Then there's the Whisper Machine, which is the only thing directly taken from Coda's games. Just like how Davey showed us the glitch of Ascension in Whisper, he intentionally uses it here. But rather than using it just for showing it as something beautiful like he did in the first game, it also instead becomes a tool for perspective. You rise through the ground and see a maze that stretches as far as the eye can see, as well as a beautiful cosmic sky. It's another glorification of self-sacrifice from Davey, leaving behind the maze for the beauty of the cosmos. And that's what the maze represents. And I know it's a little stereotypical to say that a maze represents the complexity of life, but I truly believe that's the case in this story. So with Davey glorifying self-sacrifice, it's one last case of mutilation of Coda's symbol in a collection of Coda's work that Davey has stolen and changed to serve his narrative. Now that we've arrived at the point where I talk about Davey, I would like to heavily reiterate that everything I am talking about and have talked about is about Davey Wreden, the character in this game. None of this applies to the real-life true person. Just because Davey the person made this game does not mean anything we arrive at is true to him. Just like Davey the character says,
Maybe he just likes making prisons.
Okay, cool. Let's continue talking about Davey the character. Davey is an unreliable narrator. This is something that is incredibly obvious and directly shown to the player with the parts of Davey admitting to changing house.
Like the house cleaning game. You know, that one used to actually loop the cleaning chores and you just cleaned a house forever. I had to cut it off so that you could exit the house and the game would actually end.
Or with Coda revealing that Davey added the lampposts.
Would you stop changing my games? Stop adding lampposts to them.
However, I think that's a surface-level understanding of Davey. I think it's interesting to delve into why he is the way he is. Why did he change Coda's games? Why did he still release this collection? And I think, most importantly of all, what didn't he understand from Coda's games?
Was I a failure for not understanding this game?
I think we need to start at the beginning first. Davey really wanted to be friends with Coda, and was enthusiastic, to say the least.
This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually.
But this is one of the only parts of the story that we get Coda's perspective on. Davey was pushy, awkward, trying to get Coda's attention. But although he was kind, Coda didn't really reciprocate all that much, as pointed to from the song name Leave Me Alone, and the general vibe that is given off from theater. Their relationship is never great, and I say this for a couple reasons. First, Coda never went to show Davey his work.
I know that Coda really liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at it. This was during a period of a few months where he was like grossly happy all the time, just walked around with a constant smile on his face.
It can be assumed Davey always pushed to see Coda's work. Also, they would get into arguments often.
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible?
I want to draw attention to the last statement there, because I think it highlights how Davey treated their relationship. Davey put so much effort into looking at Coda's work, rather than trying to know the person.
But it's ironic, isn't it? That in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work.
Davey thought that by analyzing Coda's work, he would understand the creator. But that's not how it works. People's creations aren't representative of who they are.
I don't know this person. I have no idea who this person is. It wasn't the guy I knew, it wasn't my friend. I had come to so many conclusions from looking at all of his work up to this point, and then suddenly none of them...
It's with this that Davey didn't communicate with Coda, and he broke Coda's boundaries.
Because it would never occur to Coda to start actively soliciting feedback, so what if I did it for him? If he could see the difference it would make to have more actual conversations with other human beings, would that bring him out of his mental spiral? Would it give him confidence in himself? Would it bring meaning back into his work? So I started showing Coda's work to people.
Would you stop taking my games and showing them to people against my wishes? Giving them something that is not yours to give, violating the one boundary that keeps me safe.
Even years in the future, Davey released all of Coda's work to the public in the very collection we play. Coda starts pulling away from Davey, and it only makes Davey's treatment of him worse, until Coda makes Tower to finally get Davey to stop. But Davey doesn't understand the game.
Was I a failure for not understanding this game?
Davey's problem is the fact that he never stopped to look at himself. Throughout this entire story, Davey talks about Coda and projects aspects about himself onto Coda rather than trying to understand himself. At the end of Tower, Davey is just having a conversation with himself, and despite what he believes about that,
You can't talk yourself out of loneliness. It doesn't work that way. You can't be the one writing both the questions and the answers. Then there's no movement. Then there's no circulation. If all of your anxieties are being channeled into your work, then if the work ever fails, you have no backup and you're just going to crash.
that conversation is exactly what he needs, and he starts to realize this as he talks to us in Epilogue. He finally starts to have those realizations he needs to have. And throughout all of Epilogue, that is exactly what Davey does. He finally begins the process of understanding himself more. Throughout the entirety of the Epilogue, the lamppost is nowhere to be found. Because to understand yourself, you have to sit in the dark space and have an honest conversation with yourself. That's what makes the symbol of the lamppost so incredibly potent, because it is literally a producer of light, the antithesis of the dark space. So many of Coda's games end in dark space, but Davey puts a lamppost to light it up. But it's finally, at the end of the game, that Davey starts to have an honest conversation while the player sits in the puzzle. We might be there, but we're not talking. Take the lamppost and Escape. The entire purpose of Escape is to represent the dark space, but Davey, in his quest to understand these games and have them serve his narrative, adds the lamppost. It directly counteracts exactly what this game is supposed to be, as it illuminates the dark space. Or take the lamppost at the end of Machine. One of Coda's main motifs is the dark space, but Davey shoehorns the lamppost right beside the machine that represents Coda in his dark space. The lamppost looks like it doesn't belong. It looks like a parasite, which is exactly how Davey acts.
You desperately need something, and I cannot give it to you. I literally do not have it.
The avoidance of the dark space, the illumination of the dark space, prevents introspection. The lamppost is a defense mechanism, a safety blanket. The dark space is scary. It's a confrontation of yourself. But to confront yourself, you have to accept and acknowledge yourself now. Then you can grow wiser and understand what you need to do. But the lamppost allows Davey to stay as he is, avoid the true issues, and stay safe. But like Davey projects onto Coda.
Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
You can't stay in the safe light of the lamppost forever. You have to confront the darkness. It's the only way you can grow. And that's Davey's problem throughout this entire story. He is a static character. He acts one way and refuses to truly attempt to change. He relies on the lamppost to keep him safe, to stay out of the darkness. It infects his relationship with Coda and influences how he presents Codas to others, all because of his need of validation.
If I knew that my life depended on finding something to be driven by other than validation, what would that even be? It's strange, but the thought of not being driven by external validation is unthinkable. Like, I actually cannot conceive of what that would be like.
Davey's need of validation brings him to tell stories with himself as a hero. He wants to fix Coda. He tells us himself. But Coda doesn't need fixing. Davey is blinded by the light to see this and instead presents his own story, his own narrative, so that we can view him as the hero, the guy who tried to help, tried to fix a broken artist. But to some extent, he knows this. He knows that he's not a good person, so he idolizes this idea that one act can make you a hero, a good person. He idolizes self-sacrifice. It's a quick one-stop shop solution to all of his problems, after all. But it's not realistic. The truth is, the only way to escape yourself is to accept and confront yourself, and push yourself forward past where you were. Coda, the second main character of this story. It's hard to talk about Coda because we don't have much from him directly throughout the course of this story. We only truly get his letter in Tower as a primary source of his side of the story. You know, when I originally wrote this part, I started to try and figure out who Coda is based off what Davey says and what the games show. That way we could still find the meaning of the 3 dots. But even though Coda is a character and not a real person, I don't think I can do this. It's exactly what Davey tried to do, so no, I won't. I cannot understand who Coda is because we never directly hear from Coda. We don't get this insight into him like we get from Davey throughout the entire course of the story. And that's exactly why we cannot understand what the 3 dots mean to Coda. And you know, maybe that's the greatest tragedy of the game. The one most mysterious motif, and we can only guess on what it's supposed to mean. It's never clearly communicated because it's not supposed to be within Coda's games. Unlike Davey's lamppost or the motif of the dark space that is supposed to be understood. So I guess you can only come up with your own meaning for the 3 dots and what they mean to you. When people talk about this game, some of them will talk about how you can't analyze this game without falling into the trap of being like Davey. But that's not true. You can analyze this game. That is not the problem of what Davey did. Art is meant to be analyzed. But what Davey did wasn't just analyze the game. He took the games and he tried to understand Coda, the person from them. He used it as a replacement for getting to know the artist. He came to conclusions about the artist from their work, and when the narrative didn't fit, he made his own and changed the games and told us things to get us to follow his story. The problem was never analysis. The problem was using their art as a copy of the author, as an avenue to try and understand the author. But you can't know someone through their work. To try and do that is to try and have a parasocial relationship and understanding of the person. The inclusion of Davey the character is a bait to attempt to draw parallels to Davey the person, and sometimes people try to use this game to do exactly that. But in doing so, they fall into the same trap Davey the character did. You cannot use artistic work to understand the author. That's why everything I've talked about is about Davey the character, not the person. But that meaning is too surface level. I think that we need to move towards the feeling that most leave this game with. The feeling of wanting to think more about it. The feeling of wanting to understand. This game, at its core, is an invitation for analysis and introspection. The game sticks its hand out and comfortingly tells you, everyone's afraid of the dark. That's why people made candles, nightlights, and lampposts. It kept them safe from confronting the monsters and prisons of the night. But in here, there's nothing to fear. After all, it's only you. And that's it! I have finished my analysis of the beginner's guide. I've spent months on this project, let alone years I've been wanting to do this. This game is so important to me. I originally came across it in December 2023, about 2.5 years ago. I was in a rough spot as a person. I'd been struggling with friendships and just stepped back from a friendship trio I was in. It was rough for me. But the day after calling them and finalizing a break for a little while, I bought and played through the entire game that night. By the time it was over, I cried. I cried throughout the last half of the epilogue. And I wasn't sure why. I knew this was my favorite game of all time after finishing it, and I knew there was so much to it. But I didn't know why. I felt like I was missing something. This feeling persisted for a while, and I got others to play this game, but it never left my mind. Time passed, and I confronted the dark space and grew as a person. Upon reflection, I think I have an idea of what the 3 dots mean to me. The 3 dots always appear before the puzzle, never after. Yet they keep coming back time after time in the story. The 3 dots, even in design, are like a sequence. There will always be another puzzle, another prison, another set of 3 dots. The dots sit before each puzzle like a reminder that it won't be the last one you face, but it's in that way that I find them comforting. The puzzle and the dark space are inherently scary, but always, right before, the 3 dots are there to let you know that it'll be okay. You've gotten through prisons before, and you'll have to confront more puzzles in the future. They've stuck with me for so many years. And in celebration of that, it'll be my first ever tattoo. Eventually, I started this channel and dedicated myself to a year of uploads. And I knew, deep down, I knew, that I would make this video eventually. And 4.5 months later, I finally started working on it. I am so happy to have finally analyzed this game. I may not be perfectly right with everything I said. Honestly, I'd be happy to be 85% of the way there. But it's done. And this wouldn't have been possible without my friends. The ones I've lost, the ones I've gained, and the ones that have stuck with me since the beginning. So, to all of them, thank you. You mean truly so much to me. I hope you know. And to everyone watching this now, thank you! I know it's a lot to ask for an hour of your time in this crazy fast-paced world, but you stuck around. I truly appreciate it. But in the spirit of the game, I think I have one last thing to ask of all of you. The next time a puzzle comes your way or you feel trapped in a prison, consider stepping out into the dark space. You never know what you might find out. Now, let me thank a couple last people. First off, the amazing VA for Coda and other voices, Sears. You can find a link to his website, YouTube channel, and Blue Sky in the description below and on screen. Next, the VA for the Housekeeper, Sky Sentrell. You can find a link to her Instagram in the description below and on screen. Then, a VA for a handful of voices, VForest. You can find a link to her casting call club in the description below and on screen. And then, another VA for a handful of voices, VISYMPATHETIC. You can find a link to her YouTube channel in the description and on screen. And lastly, my friend Roxy, who she helped out when I forgot that I needed some lines recorded. Music credits all go to Ryan Roth for his work on the Beginner's Guide soundtrack. Thanks to Davey Wreden for making such an incredible game, as well as everyone else who helped with it. Thank you to MGD14of14_, that's a mouthful, on Reddit for a handwritten Beginner's Guide script that was incredibly useful while working on this. And lastly, one last time, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely incredible week. I'll see you next Wednesday.